Hey, everybody. It's Tarkan back with another video. How's everyone doing out there? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. So I have an email for you today from a viewer and a recent coaching client who had an epiphany and is asking me probably the most loaded question I've ever been asked, which is, what is love? Well, that's one that we can begin to unpack perhaps, but, it's going to take I don't know what it's going to take, a whole video series perhaps on what love is, right? Also because it's so subjective, just like everything in this universe is subjective, you get to decide what it is really for you, right? But ultimately, I'm going to attempt to crack this one, but, suffice it to say that this person who asked that their name be omitted, basically already understands what love is, right? Because, they had an epiphany. So they're kind of asking me, hey, Tarkan, what do you think about this epiphany? So it's not necessarily that they're asking me to define the word love, but I'll give it a crack in terms of, how we can apply the idea of love to law of attraction, to manifesting, and what it means in terms of our relationship, our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to the universe, because that's really what it comes down to. Okay. But let me read the email for you, and then we're going to get into it. I wanted to share this idea, even though it is very, very fresh in my mind, because it just came to me and wanted to see if you could cover this topic in one of your videos. And the funny thing is, I have been looking high and low in the manifestation community for more info and have turned up mostly dry, at least in the bit of reading I did online. Since the coaching session you did for me a couple weeks ago, I've had a few new revelations come to me, and most recently over the last week, I had the very strong urge to watch *𝗙liche 𝗖𝗍 again after a long period of not seeing it. That's a movie, I believe, isn't that with Steve Carell, I think, right? If you haven't seen *��liche 𝗖𝗍, there is a scene close to the end of the film where he is talking to God, as God, and he prays for the woman he loves to be happy, without demanding in the prayer that she come back to him. It was at that moment I felt a strong upswell of emotion. Pay attention to those upswells, and started crying, and I felt a very powerful, energetic surge coursing through my body. And even though I was alone, a simple sentence came forward out of my mouth. That is love. In quotes. At the end of the movie, when Bruce realizes what love really is, he and the woman he loves end up together and happily married. A large wave of realization came over me that, at least in the realm of intimate partners, and maybe even outside of that, I had no idea what love was before that point, and that even though I love my special person deeper than I can ever say in simple words, I had not yet taught myself to identify and act from what love really is and truly understand it. It's funny, I'm having a hard time elaborating more beyond that, but I thought maybe you could give further clarification to this idea and use it to help others by explaining what love is. And, oh boy. And isn't with respect, what it is and isn't with respect to those who want a relationship with their specific person included, and how to take inspired action from that understanding. Well, all right. This is going to be like a 3-hour video. I'm kidding. I want to point out something specific here, though. Out of the email, let's find the part here. And by the way, to those of you that sometimes complain that I interrupt the emails that I read, and I should read them all the way through, the thing is, I lose my train of thought, and I lose the spots where I wanted to elaborate specifically. So this is what you're going to have to endure if you want me to just go through the email without, peppering it with my comments. I'm going to have to sit here for a minute and hunt and peck for the part that I'm looking for. But this surge of this strong upswell of emotion, right? And you started crying in that moment that you had this realization by watching that scene where the man prays for his woman to be happy without demanding that she come back to him. So many times I've talked about your emotional guidance system in relation to your inner being, right? And that your emotions are nothing but a form of communication, a channel that you have directly to your inner being. And remember, inner being, higher being, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing. It's that larger part of you, who you really are. outside of your monkey suit that remains on the other side, focused in non-physical, that's always with you, always connecting with you, always communicating with you. The matter of fact is that most of us don't listen. We don't hear it, or we don't understand that this is what your emotional guidance system really is. We think emotions are things that, if they're bad, we have to chase them away, usually through medication or something like that. If they're good, then we embrace them. But you know what? It's actually, I don't want to say more complicated than that. It's actually much simpler than that, because even the bad emotions, they're just there to indicate something to you. It's just a message is all it is, okay? And the fact that you're feeling an emotion in relation to something that you're realizing, or in relation to something that you're thinking or doing or saying in that moment, is your inner being letting you know whether that thought you're having, whether that thing you're saying, whether that thing you're doing is in alignment with who you really are and where it is you want to be. Are you pointed towards what you want, or are you pointed away from it? Are you in alignment with what you want, or are you out of alignment with it? It's as simple as that, and it's not much more complicated than that. But of course, in our culture, we don't understand this, okay? We don't know this. So we have this whole industry. I always say the psychiatric industry and all these pharmaceuticals and all this self-medicating that we do to chase away terrible things, terrible feelings, terrible emotions. And then you have the confusing aspect of some law of attraction coaches telling you to only think good thoughts and never think bad thoughts. The thing is, yes, of course, that makes sense. You don't want to dwell on the things that you're feeling negative emotions about. They're just there to communicate to you and to indicate to you whether you're in alignment with yourself or not, whether what you're thinking is truth or not, you see. If you have a thought like, let's really get down to it, okay? If you have a thought like, hey, only this specific person can make me happy and no one will ever make me happy again, well, you're in deep shit, okay? And the reason that feels so awful to have that thought is because your inner being is going, that's not true at all, all right? This person is not the cause of your happiness, it's the only source of your happiness. If you're thinking that and you're adopting it as some kind of truth to yourself, your inner being is going to disagree with you. And the way it disagrees with you, the way it reaches you is through your emotions, by letting you feel awful in that moment about that thing you're thinking, about how you're reacting to a certain topic or thinking about a certain topic or speaking about a certain topic. And so that gives you the opportunity to go, oh, I feel pretty bad about that thought. That must be out of alignment with who I am and what I want. That must be out of alignment with the way my inner being looks at the situation, because that's what being in alignment with a thing is, with a desire. You want to adopt the perspective on anything that you desire. You want to adopt the same perspective that God has about that thing. And so God, your inner being, is always letting you know what its perspective on that is. It's the moment you have a desire, it puts itself into perfect alignment with it without any resistance at all. And then it guides you to put yourself into alignment with that thing as well. So the thing that you really are reaching for here is to look at any subject and topic that you're interested in, any desire that you want, the same way that the universe is looking at it. Because if you say things to yourself like, I'm not good enough, you feel awful about that, because the universe is going, no, nothing could be further from the truth that you're not good enough. Of course you're good enough. Then you switch that around and you look for examples where you're good enough in life. Well, I attracted them to begin with, so I was good enough then. I've attracted other people, so I'm good enough for them. I accomplished this and that in my life, so I'm good enough to have things that I want. And now you feel better. You feel relief. You feel better. You feel more hope. Now is your inner being going, yes, more like that. That's what you want to be thinking. That's how you want to be looking at this situation. Now you're pointed towards it and not away from it, you see. So when you have these upsurges of emotion, a strong upswell of emotion, as you wrote here in your email, that's the universe going, yes, 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 yes. Because your thought in that moment was what? That is love. That is love. I can love someone without needing anything back from them. I can align with that, because what you're looking for is communion with your inner being, always. And we translate that by having relationships with others, friendships, even our family relationships. Everybody is the same. We come from the same source. There is no real separation between any of us. So to love somebody else is to love yourself, and to love yourself is to love others. You see, it's the same thing. All right. So in response to this idea that you can love your specific person or anybody unconditionally, because that's what we're talking about. And that means without condition. That means you're not just loving them or offering love to them because you want something in return for that love. All right. Love is not an exchange of goods or services or ideas. Love is just something that you give. Okay. And you receive it as well, because you must give it to yourself as well. You cannot love another person unless you love yourself, because the two of you are not separate. You understand? To hate somebody is to hate some aspect of yourself. To love somebody is to love some aspect of yourself. And so whoever you attract in your life and the version of them that you attract is always in perfect alignment with how you're aligned with yourself. And that means how you're aligned with your inner being, with the universe. How you're looking at that person, that situation, that topic, that circumstance, in relation to how the universe is looking at it and feeling about it. So when you say, hey, I can love you, I can offer you love without needing you to come back and do the same for me, now you're onto something. Now you're loving unconditionally. And of course, the end result of that is that you can now be with that person. You can now attract that person. You can now have a relationship with that person, because that relationship in your mind is no longer dependent on whether they give you things that you feel you need to feel good about yourself, to feel happy, or to feel complete, because you understand now you're already a complete person, that the only thing that needs to be bridged, the only relationship you need to tend, is the one you have with your inner being. That's what we use these relationships to do. And not just relationships with other people. We use these relationships, the relationships we have with our work, with ideas, with things we love to do, with our hobbies and passions. That's love as well, you see. You know, if you love to do something, if you love to paint, okay, if really you have a burning passion for painting and just the act of doing it, you don't care about what that's going to give you in the end. Am I going to sell that thing? Am I going to be a famous painter? No, you just love the act of painting. It's giving you enough in that moment, you see. And that's you being in alignment with that creative part of you, that creative source within you. That's love. Now you're tending to that relationship, you see. So when you feel that strong upswell of emotion in response to the thought, well, this is love. Love is this unconditional thing. That's your inner being going, yes, thank you. You get it finally. That's something to pay attention to. Okay. And of course, when you think, well, that person is awful and terrible and I love them and I put all this effort into the relationship and then they did this to me, they did that to me, and I'm angry and I'm upset, but I want them back. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because you're putting conditions on that. You know, I've done videos about this before. Send them love. But again, most of you will take that advice and go, oh, if I send them love, then they'll come back. If I send them love, then I'll get something out of that in return. And then you go, well, nothing happened because you didn't give love unconditionally, because you still think that person needs to be in your life to be happy. They're the only one that's going to complete it for you. Your life for you, yourself for you. Nothing could be further from the truth. So if you want me to say, what is love? And I think, you know, again, this is something we can talk about for hours and hours and look at from many different angles, but let's look at it in context of your email here and your specific question regarding this sort of epiphany that you had. That I want to say, and this is, you know, a perspective that Abraham has on this, Abraham Hicks, and possibly Neville and a lot of other coaches and teachers have on this, is that love is nothing more than that alignment with your higher self, with your inner being. That's it. And that's the alignment you're always looking for, you see. Because when you have that alignment, you'll feel it. You will feel unconditional love in general. You'll even love the things that you don't like so much right now, because you'll understand that these challenges and whatever appear in your life are there to guide you and to teach you. They come up as a way to show you where you still have some resistance going on. Right? So you can hammer that out. Without that, how would you even know? How do you know where you want to be and how to get there if you don't even know where you're starting from? Okay. You could be on the moon, right? It's like, I'm on the moon right now. How do I get back to Earth? But if you don't know you're on the moon, how the hell are you going to get back to Earth? Right? Anyway, I know it's a weird example. But the point here is that you're always looking for that alignment with yourself. If you want to call it love, let's call it love. But, love is such a loaded term, and we've ruined it as people, really, in a way. Oh, love is hard. Love is difficult. It's not. Let's use the term appreciation. That's a similar kind of emotion and a kind of feeling, right? We can replace the term love for appreciation. And actually, that's much less loaded, right? That feels easier to say, well, what do I appreciate about this person? Because in appreciating something, you're not asking for anything in return because the thing is already complete for you. The thing is already giving you something. I appreciate painting, the process of painting. That in and of itself is making me feel appreciative. It's making me feel love. I don't need anything further out of it, you see, because I just love doing that. That's an unconditional thing. So, let's replace love with appreciation. Let's see how that works out, right? And it's a much easier way. I mean, just to me saying it feels much lighter to say appreciation instead of love. I love my person. I appreciate my person. What do you appreciate about them? See, now you're training your mind into a mindset of where you can appreciate a person the same way you can appreciate the act of painting, the act of cooking, the act of dancing, the act of taking a walk, whatever it is that you love and appreciate in your life that you don't need anything in return from. You see, just the act itself gives you that peace and that alignment. So when you can appreciate a person, now you're getting into the realm of being unconditional about that person, you see, rather than, well, I love that person, but I need love in return from that person to love them completely. Because what that really translates to is, I don't love myself completely and without condition. I don't think I'm complete on my own. I don't think I'm good enough on my own. Only if that person shows me love and appreciation will I be able to love myself. Well, that's a job. That's a 24/7 job that no one can fulfill for you. And it's exhausting. Okay. So let's replace love with appreciation. And let's call love alignment. Alignment with your true self. Your true self understands your power. Your true self is a powerful creator. Your true self came into this life, created all the conditions and circumstances of your birth, of your physical appearance, of everything. Whether you want to believe that or not, I mean, ultimately, that's really what it comes down to. You walk through a veil of amnesia, of forgetfulness, of forgetting who you truly are, so you can spend a lifetime reconnecting with that. And every time you reconnect with that in your moment, in your life, and throughout moments in your life, you're going to feel that appreciation, that sense of love. That's your inner being. It's always reaching out to you, but that's you actually taking its hand and reaching back out to it. And when you take that hand, it lets you know in no uncertain terms, you're going to feel that kind of upsurge of emotion. You're connected now in that moment. Okay? And so when you connect with another person in the same way, that is the same as connecting with your inner being. That's the same as connecting with God. To love another person unconditionally is the same as connecting with God and loving God, and which is the same as loving yourself. It's the same thing. We need to start thinking in terms, we get away from this separation mentality and think of unity mentality, okay? And that's not like some hippy dippy love kind of stuff. I'm not talking about crystals and whatever. Nothing wrong with crystals, okay? My hippie friends. But it's much more simple than that. It's much more straightforward than that. I think when we call these things magic, it makes it seem so out of reach for people, which is why I don't really go in that direction. I don't like to say, oh, law of attraction is magic and manifesting is magic. I might banty that term around every now and then, but it's so loaded, and it makes it seem to people that it's not accessible to them. When it's, I prefer to look at it more like gravity. It's just a condition that exists. You're not going to change the condition. You're going to learn to work within that condition. Okay. You'll learn to work within the condition of gravity in this world. All right. So not to do certain things where gravity is going to work against you. I don't jump off tall buildings, at least not without a parachute. I don't, if I trip, I fall down. Okay. I get up again. This is the kind of thing where this is a condition that's in place, and I'm working through that condition, with that condition, around that condition. I'm learning how to use that condition to my advantage. It's not magic. It's just the way things work. Okay? And if it's the way things work, then you can make it work to your advantage. Then it's not so outside the realm of possibility. Okay? And one of the ways that we do that is through this thing we call love, this power we call love. If we call it appreciation, then we can call it a creative power. And then we can say really what created us, the universe, everything is love, which is attention to something. It's positive, appreciative attention to something, you see. And attention to something is what brings it into being. Even the stuff you don't like, if you're paying attention to the stuff you don't like all the time, focusing, thinking about it all the time, speaking about it all the time, that's going to become manifest in your reality. It's going to perpetuate in your reality. Okay, so if you can turn around and even look at the negative things in your life and find things to appreciate about them, now you're tapping into that unconditional universal love, because now you're reaching for alignment with who you really are, with the source within you. And the source within you is always wanting to connect with you. And you're actually always wanting to connect with it. You just translate that connection into all these other different channels. Oh, my connection with that person, my connection with that thing, my connection with that dog, my connection with my car that I love, all these things. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's what we come into this environment to do, this physical environment. But understand that every connection you're looking for is a connection with the source within you. It's a connection with God, ultimately. And so the same goes for your specific person. You're looking for a connection with God through them, through the relationship with them. So if the relationship isn't existent in your life right now, can you find other ways to do that? And there are infinite ways for you to do that. And then once you do so, then you begin to understand the connection between your relationship to this thing that you have unconditional love for, and your connection, your relationship to the person, the specific person that you're thinking about. They will come back, just like all the conditions that match that kind of alignment will come into your life and manifest. Things that you're not even aware are possible right now. Once you get into alignment and you find that appreciation, and it begins with yourself, and you find appreciation for the things in your life, and they're unconditioned, it's an unconditional kind of appreciation, you'll find suddenly things popping out of the woodwork that you didn't know were possible. Great things, right? Good things, good manifestations. So I want to say, I always stress this and make no mistake. Of course you can manifest a specific person, but most of you are going about it in a kind of a backwards way, which is causing consternation and impatience. And, it's not happening yet because you're not quite understanding what you're really after. What you're really after is alignment with your inner being, with the source within you, with the universe, with God. And it has to be unconditional. Okay. Because if you're putting conditions on it, it's not really love, right? It's not really appreciation. How can you appreciate something and then suddenly find flaws in it? I really appreciate this, this painting, but I just wish the paint was green, the paint is red. I wish it was green. So you're not appreciating the red paint for being red, okay? You wanting some condition to be different because you think green will be better, will make you feel better, all right? What'll make you feel better is to appreciate the red, all right? And then you'll have green, you'll have all the other things, because everything wants to be appreciated, okay? Did that make any sense at all? I feel like I'm babbling. So, to you, the person who wrote this email, and to all of you watching, this is not going to be like a 5-hour video of me getting into every aspect of what love is. But I think, we can begin to unpack this idea, first of all, through the epiphany that you had. I mean, there's really not much more for me to say about it, except to connect it back to what I always talk about, which is alignment with your inner being, which is that when you had that epiphany in that moment, that was a direct download. That was a direct communication from your inner being, letting you have that surge of emotion in that moment to let you know in no uncertain terms, yes, the way you're thinking about this now is true and correct. It's in alignment with who you really are. And you know that already. You see? When you feel that kind of, oh my God, especially those things we call epiphanies, those aha moments, right? Those eureka moments. Nothing better than that. Pay especially close attention to those things, okay? So yes, loving unconditionally, let's call it appreciation. Okay, let's just say love is appreciation. And going forward, try to use that term instead of the term love. Because again, love, that term is so loaded for most of us, and it carries a lot of baggage and a lot of resistance for a lot of us. But appreciation is a very different kind of feeling. It's a very different kind of mindset. Okay, so try that for a little while. Try replacing the word love in your mind and when you speak with appreciation. I really appreciate my partner. I really appreciate my mother. I really appreciate my job. I really appreciate my life. And you can look for the qualities about those things that you appreciate more specifically. You know, oh, I really appreciate, when they smile at me, how that makes me feel. I really appreciate the work that I do because I know I'm helping people, or I get that sense of accomplishment that I really appreciate, right? You see how much less loaded that term is, and that kind of way of looking at it is. So if you want to really have a person in your life in the positive way that you're seeking, and I know all of you are watching this, don't try to love them unconditionally, although that's really what we're heading towards. Try instead, or do instead, appreciate them. Okay? If you're looking for positive aspects about them and about the connection that you've had and shared and that you're about to share again, and the connection you have now, whether you're physically around each other or not, you do have a connection to each other. Okay? Look for things to appreciate about them and about that. And when you're doing that, your mind is too busy appreciating to find things and focus on things that it doesn't appreciate. Okay? So I hope that answers your question. I tried my best. I hope that helps all of you out there watching this. And if it does, if you like this video, this content, and the cut of my jib, then please do hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the notification button so you'll know when I upload. Leave a comment, like the video, share the video. If you want some coaching with me, please find that down below. The link for that down below in the description box. Also, you'll find links for, if you want to leave me a tip for this video, you can do so down below as well. And everybody who's done so, thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. It means a lot to me. You see that? I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. I really, really do. So thanks for watching. Until next time, this is Tarkan. Happy manifesting, and bye-bye.